Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the ModelCollect at YouTube with another tank build. We're looking at the ModelCollect E-50 Jagdpanther with 105L62 gun. This is one of those paper panzers. The tank does not necessarily in its full complete form depicted on the box art existed during the Second World War or after, though it's potentially either been prototyped or just in the design phase. A lot of these are getting very popular with games like War Thunder, World of Tanks, where they appear and they can keep bringing out new vehicles for the game without being stale with what already existed in World War II. Talking about ModelCollect, it is at the moment a very interesting model company to follow, especially with their range of 72nd and 35th designs. They have gone absolutely crazy in the fantasy sci-fi genre leading off World War II with appropriately themed designed mechs, walking tanks, and the 72nd release of the Rat tank with all sorts of turrets and whatnot. Another variant with a warship known turret and actual turrets on warships standalone. I do intend to get a lot of that to display on the channel. What you get in the box is 9 runners, 1 hull piece, photo etch, some very quality nice decals displaying excellent markings, basic numbers, the German cross and all that. The box itself is very sturdy and worthwhile holding onto for storage. Full color instructions, layout of parts. The instructions are fairly easy to follow through. The numbers correspond with what's on the runners. Due to the hull being used for various kits, you will be left over with spare parts that's ideal for kit bashing or whatnot. The color guide does not correspond with the box. Being a make-believe tank, that's not a big deal, and you can run with your imagination. I really do like the fitting experience, as well as all the extra tow cables and stowage that it comes that you can place at your own free will or according to the instructions. At some points of the runners, I've noticed excess flash leakage. It could be a poor mold or something like that. Yet all the points that you glue the hull, the hatches and bits and pieces together are absolutely tight, and virtually no filling has been required except for the gun and smaller 2-halved parts. The experience has been very good and reacts well to plastic cement. The suspension wheels, bits and pieces, glued fairly snug to the hull without too much mucking around. It was a case of one of those glue individual track links together. How they fit and how the wheels are already sitting on, I slid them together side by side, waited for drying and slapped it straight on. The experience was fairly painless. A lot of nub removal, but nothing you would expect from this. Comparing it to brands like Ace and other around the Chinese Eastern European sphere, this is a cut above everyone else, yet not as good as how S-Model takes the approach of having everything pre-molded. For those who enjoy the modifying diorama, figures and storytelling aspect of the hobby, the hatches are removable and there's a fair amount of internal detail, especially around the engine and back area. Those hatches or vents can be opened up to expose all sorts of mechanical detail. I skipped over that step of the instructions and saved all the parts. Just glued everything with a hollow interior. A lot of those parts and mechanical bits are interesting enough to be used for detailing and scratch building in future science fiction projects, but would look quite spectacular with someone working on it or it being partially destroyed or opened up. All sorts of opportunities. All the pieces, once sub-assembled, came together very well with streamlined instructions and a dab of glue and snap on. The build took very little time, over 2 sessions. Would definitely recommend this to any skill level or modeler with intent, even as far as someone who's just starting out or haven't built a kit before. You're rewarded with lots of spare parts, though the amount of runners does bump up the cost of this kit. The photo etch stuff you use at your own peril, if you choose to or not. Detail is very crisp, highly recommended from my point of view. As I've been doing lately with 70-second kits, a lot of the stowage such as extra tracks, shovels, tools, boxes, that sort of thing, are kept separate, painted separate on skewers, weathered, PVA glued later, final weathering, top coat. This saves a lot of hand painting and mucking around on the hull of the tank itself. Usual regime of Tamir putty to see any faults or issues, primer I should have said, as well as Guyonote either oxidized red as an undercoat. Decided to go for a bit of a stranger colour scheme, playing on the already rust hull, bit of German grey, bit of white, and weathered it to the point of being ready for the eastern front. Heavy snow build-up. The airbrushing was a lot of fun, done via freehand, and each colour toned with multiple shades in a light gradient manner. Small details hand painted such as tank tracks and all the bits and pieces. Weathering consisted of pigment weathering pencil, lots of sludge washes of darker colours, grime, and especially heavily snow. To build up the effect of snow build-up, I used PVA glue and snow flock. A few coats of finish to dull it down. Final details just before the weathering included attaching the parts as per mentioned, and decals. Did not use the decals supplied, instead jumped for some Girls and Panzer markings belonging to the German school. Play into that make-believe, what-if fantasy a bit more. A few more tiny details and fine touch-ups, and we're done with a finished build. I did this in tandem with the S model kit, SU-85. The build for both of them were immediate, no time whatsoever. The painting and weathering, it's been sitting on my desk for about a month and a half, and I did small steps here and there in between other projects, though really taking my time to get a finish that I've envisioned, and especially wanting to master the more of winter Eastern Front heavy snow weathering, comparing to some tanks I did see in northern China. I'm really happy with playing around with pigments, a lot of fun. Very difficult to get a build up, though the PVA glue and flock was very helpful. As mentioned in the SU-85 video, you do have to be careful with PVA glue and finishes, as matte can frost up and do strange things. Put a gloss coat first. I used Future Floor, very safe, and everything fell together. The more weathering method you use in a very light manner and build up instead of just heavily with one or two methods, the better. You can always lean on dry brushing, pigment, powders, pastels, anything goes. Just have fun with it, build up, and try to tell a story. Super happy with this build. There's not much that I'm unhappy with it, to the point that I could almost put it in a show. Nothing silvered, gone wrong, or split. Small things I forgot to mention, such as weathering pencils to highlight the edges for snow, and a silver pencil to get a little bit of paint chipping here and there wasn't mentioned. Overall, very happy with my efforts, and definitely, as mentioned, would highly recommend anything from ModelCollect or this particular model. They do also do modern tanks, though some of their mecha stuff very worthwhile taking a look. They've got a Facebook page as well as a group. They post a lot of the CAD work for some of the stuff they're prototyping, designing well before production. It is a bit of an insight on what's to come. Very transparent company. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for further content on this channel. I upload videos once a week, all modelling related. There is a playlist of armoured fighting vehicles and tanks on this channel. I've done well over 50 armour builds over the years, so there's a bit of back catalogue videos to check out. In the description section down below, we've got links to Facebook and other outlets where I post work and updates that may or may not be interested to you. As well, in the description section, reference regarding more details about the model and links to the history of the subject matter. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for more content. Catch you guys next time.